Let's bring in former Secretary of State and former CIA Director, Fox News contributor, Mike Pompeo. Mike, why do you think they're going so slow now? Is this purely inept forces, bad equipment, not enough armament, or something else?
Brian, I think it's a couple things. I think first, all credit to the Ukrainian leadership, its military leadership, and its political leadership as well. When I was the CIA director, we spent time in the Southeast. I was down there myself. We were training Ukrainian units, mostly the high-end special operating capabilities, some of which we've seen demonstrated today. So I think we should give the Ukrainians credit. Second, the Russian army relies on good political leadership, and you can see that morale is bad and that their effort to go in on four axis wasn't supplied. If you're not feeding your soldiers, if you don't have fuel for their tanks, if you put them in a long line and then throw them in the mud, I was an armor officer, Brian. That is bad news for morale. And I think you've seen that play out all across the country, and it's caused the Russians to have a terrible time accomplishing what should have been relatively straightforward mission set, accompanied by air power and cyber, right. And they failed on every single strategic front.
But the Wagner Group, and you wiped out a large number of them, they're just basically hired mercenaries. We're getting some footage. They're going in there, and they are ruthless. They're hiring Syrian forces to go fight. They're paying the Belarusians, perhaps, are going to have to get involved. Are you worried about that if you're a Ukrainian fighter?
Yeah. Anytime they're able to bring in reinforcements, especially reinforcements like the Wagner Group, to your point, Brian, these are just paid assassins. We dealt with them. We took a bunch of them out one night in Syria, but they caused trouble in Libya. They caused trouble in Syria. They've caused trouble in lots of places around the world. They're pretty capable, some of these units, and they are fierce folks working for a paycheck. The Belarusians will be probably second tier compared to even the Russian military. But numbers matter, and my guess is that Vladimir Putin has concluded that he's lost a lot of folks, and he's looking for more dry wood to throw on the fire. He's just looking for volume to try and reinforce his effort. He is not going to slow down, Brian. His efforts are going to be doubled down upon. No reason to think otherwise.
Mr. Secretary, they've lost 24,500 troops, it's estimated. They've lost 300 drones, 2,600 armored combat vehicles, 200 aircraft, and 155 helicopters. But there's a sense that by May 9th, they're going to say, we got Mariupol, we got Kherson, and we've expanded our footprint in Ukraine. Is that a worry you have? How do we stop that claim? And should there be a counter claim to that?
Yeah, he's going to make a big claim on May 9th. I think there's a whole bunch of things we can do. I think it'd be a great day for us to send a big truckload of reinforced equipment, not only from the United States, but from the Europeans as well. It'd be great if that was a day that we announced we were going to frack in the United States again and unleash American energy to support the long-term efforts that the Europeans will need to free themselves from the Russian jackboot of crude oil. There's lots of things that we could do on May 9th to counter that story, and I'm guessing that President Zelensky is prepared to tell a story about Ukrainian success as well. They have had enormous success in spite of the horrors that have been inflicted upon them. The Ukrainian military leadership and the people of Ukraine should be incredibly proud, and May 9th should be a day when the Ukrainians are proud and the Russians are chastised by everyone in the world.
I understand we're talking to Larry Kudlow and Robert O'Brien that you guys had a plan to be able to set up a pipeline of natural gas in Portugal to go right through Europe. We would have been their number one supplier. The French were pushing back, but they wouldn't now. I hope we can reinvigorate that plan, and when they wouldn't say, well, that's a Republican plan, I wouldn't do it. Lastly, Pope Francis refused to meet with you when you asked to meet with him because he was upset about, some type of action that we have. Now we understand that he says he is not sure that NATO hasn't provoked Russia into this war. He said NATO's been barking at Russia's gate. I have no way of telling if the rage has been provoked or not, but I suspect it's been facilitated by the West attitude. Is this the West's fault?
Well, Brian, it saddens me to hear the Catholic leader, the Pope, be so morally equivalent between Vladimir Putin, the authoritarian thug murderer, and the Ukrainian people in the West. We didn't lift a finger on offense. We've tried to support the Ukrainians in saving their own sovereignty and the lives of innocent civilian Ukrainians. To hear the Pope lose his moral way, his moral guidance. This is exactly what happened in China when the Pope was allowing the Chinese Communist Party to pick their bishops. That's what I was arguing against. I wanted him to be a moral light to the world, and he refused to meet with me simply because I had called out that desperate need for the Chinese people to have religious freedom in their country and not let the Catholic Church be co-opted by the communists. To see what he said today about NATO and about the West, about freedom-loving, rights-respecting people, and this authoritarian Vladimir Putin, to equivocate between those two It disgusts me.
A billion Catholics deserve better. Mr. Secretary, always great and
Amen.
educational to talk to you. Thanks.